Just waiting 2 more minutes. One more minute. I told myself today one of my goals for the power hour was that I would start on time. So I'm not going to give my, I guess, time. We'll talk a little bit about time today, but you know, it's Indian time means being early. So I was on early. Okay, it's almost here. You're going to see me look down on my phone just for, all right. So it is now 1 o'clock my time. I'm in the mountains and it is noon on the Pacific. Sometimes when I would work for going to Indian country, we're going to wait just a few seconds, let people get on. I see somebody say good afternoon, good afternoon, good morning. It's morning for some people. And there's a whole group of people on, they're not just in my community, but I know that they're okay when they put on their, they need coffee to get jump started in their morning. So that's my check-in. That's how I keep track of people during this time. So I'd like to formally start. Welcome to the Native Wellness Power Hour. And I think this is week 17. So I think that's pretty amazing just in that time. But I'd like to introduce myself. Oki, Nataniko Este Niki wa Anspaktikaniaki. I am Lori NewBreast, and for most of my life, like when I introduced myself to people, I would say Anspaktikaniaki. And what that meant was Southern pagan woman. But as I went on, I just sometimes say Pikaniaki, because the false division between my people here in the southern part of in the United States and in Canada, that's a false division. And I think that as we move on as people, and then I was a part of a program in Canada, in Ontario, where we were always mindful to acknowledge the indigenous traditional keepers of the land that we stood on or we performed on. And yesterday I had paused to one of my friends in Saskatoon. She's like my sister. She's my sister. She, given this time, normally she would have waited if I hadn't heard. She would have waited until we were face to face, but she told me that of a passing of one of the playwrights that we had worked together on his plays. So I thought today, you know, there's all types of ways you can, I think my title was Walk in Wellness, you know, I don't know, Dance in Wellness, you know, Groove in Wellness. However you go through life in wellness, that's the right way. That's the first thing I like to say. But she shared with me the passing of Daniel, I almost said Daniel Day-Lewis, but that's the actor. But a playwright that we had worked with. He wrote The Dreaming Beauty, which was about his people, the Haudenosaunee, their prophecy of when we awaken after a time of, if you want to say after a nightmare time, when we awaken during that time and we start to move about as ourselves. And that's how we turn what is a hard time or was a hard time into the new dreaming time. And I just want to, just remember him. And then I was also looking, I mean, you can watch other countries' news or whatever, but I try to minimize that during this time, and I have my reliable lists of people that or organizations I go to for information about the time we're living in. And then I make my Picanny informed decision. And so that's really how I want to preface this hour, is that I'm experiencing this as a Picanny. I am not, that and first and foremost is my identity. So, but, given the time, and I want to be mindful, like I said, I started on time, and I want to be mindful of what I'm saying today. And mindfulness existed before the internet and the current curriculums that are out there, because that was, if you want to say, a practice that all my people had, and I'm sure that whatever community you come from and whatever people you represent, you also had that practice. But that's the English word. So I was like, this isn't my Christmas list, but I did make a list, because if you go and you look at the power hours, like I could just keep talking. I'm a talker. My sister, Wanda, when we were little and we shared a bed, she would say she was going to stay up and see if I talk in my sleep. Well, I do. I don't know if I'm saying anything like profound, but I did, even as a child. So I wanted to be mindful that given the really like the gift of the power hour and connecting with people, that I do share some intentional things. But I also wanted to today to acknowledge all the people that are native, non-native, that this is a time of change for their families. When you can't be near a family, you may have lost a family member during this time. You may have finally let go of a family member or a friendship, because during this time, I think that there's sort of like the first layer, if you want to say, it's like the first layer has been removed. For prior to this time, there was, if you want to say, like the kind of like the coating on something. So it's been warmed off, and things feel very crisp during this time. And good, bad, otherwise, boring, funny, whatever, they feel very crisp experiences. So when you see my outfit, like I was intentional, because I wanted to like share different things that related to, I was trying to be cohesive and, be that mindful storyteller. And so, I like these hats, because when these hats first came to our people, they came with the traders. They came in traders and traders. It's funny how those two things sound the same in the English language to my ears. But they came to our people, and now you see them coming back again. It's like, and some people are like, nobody's done diamonds yet, but hey, maybe that will come about. You see them really, like, has so much beadwork and stuff on it that the person who has to wear it, like, they gotta, work out, because their hat's so heavy. But anyway, I keep my hat light. And but this headband is horsehair from my sister-in-law, from her brother made it. And a real horse, just for those of you that aren't, don't have like Like there's horses right outside of my door that belong to my relatives, and but a horsehair, and we we had a mastery or a skill in our culture around using things that we loved from the earth, from animals, from um, all like the stars, everything that we had formed a relationship with, we would use them. We would wear them, and horsehair is one of those. So, um, and then I believe during this time, humor is sacred. Good humor moves people, and then when humor is that cutting kind, you feel it. Because I also have my checker inside, and if I hear something that was put in a joke, but it makes me go, then I'm not sure if I should disrupt that moment or not. But usually I don't. So then I thought, well, I wanted to talk about uniqueness and wellness. There isn't like a concrete path, because it's really the path of creator giving life to individuals, and we're all unique. So I wore my unicorn pin because that kind of reminds me too of the uniqueness of each person. And during this time, everybody has a different reaction, although we're having a collective experience. But I do want to get to how we move through these days and prepare for when you're in motion. You're in motion intellectually or spiritually. You're moving towards a, a path or a realization, or a teaching within the hoop, like the hoop of an experience. And all hoops at the beginning, or if you think about the lodge, all of them start with wisdom. Whether even when you're born, you arrive with wisdom at your birth because you just came from an experience. And so at every beginning, that's kind of what I wanted to stay grounded in today, is that you, so if I look at a day, oh, sorry, somebody's at my door, just 1 second. Hi. Is this your taxi? No, he's right behind me. Oh, he's right behind. All right. All right. Okay, sorry about that, but that's funny. Okay, that was the FedEx person, and they're looking for my cousin, which that's the way you find out things around here. They come, and then they're looking for your relative, and so I don't know what she thought. She had her little FedEx outfit on. Anyway, so that's a little haha on the Power Hour, but. So he will get his package, just in case, he started worrying about his package. So when I was thinking about today and how you start to really prepare during this time, like we're in a sequence, right? Day after day, sunrise after sunrise after sunrise. And so this also is if right now maybe people are having good experiences, great experiences. People are having achievements. They're having wonderful times. Every day there's something good in a day. And but I like to start, if I have that concept of the hoop, at the beginning of the hoop. So the first practice that I do with myself is I get up. When I wake up, I get up. And everybody has a practice when they first wake up. But I make sure I get up, and I live in a place, and my res dogs are outside right now, but often one of my dogs gets up about 5:15. And what that means is during this time in the summer, I usually get to greet the sun. So I greet the sun, and I give thanks, and I take in that blessing to see another sunrise. And then I start to really say, well, what am I going to do this day? So sometimes I write a list, or I have a mental list the night before, but I'm mindful. I start saying, okay, these are the things I'm going to accomplish. And when I'm doing that, when I'm preparing, getting ready in the morning, I intentionally during this time, I mean, I think I did it. Sometimes I would be in a hotel room somewhere, or I'd be in another people's territory. And when I would wake up, I would think of my ancestors, my people. And during this time, when I wake up, no matter how what happened the day before, or 5 minutes before, or I take a pause, and I think of my ancestors, and I think of the living generation. That includes indigenous people, but also non-indigenous people. I think of the living generation, and how one of the things about this time is it has put us all in a collective experience, and we can see what that has done. There's been, great calls for changes, people trying to decide, well, I did this last year, but maybe not, this is not the year to go to the big amusement park. Like they're trying to rebalance in this time when things are kind of, it's moving all the time. And then you get, suddenly you think you got your groove on, you're feeling really balanced, and then a unicorn runs through your world, and you have to readjust. So we're actually, being asked on a day by day basis sometimes to make micro adjustments. It's kind of like a spiritual chiropractic experience for people. But so I intentionally am mindful of thinking about that. And yesterday I was sharing with my sister that I had, doing some other type of research, I had come across this family where different sides of the spectrum, they had been separated for a long time. And when they came together, they found out that a similar interest was driving them, and they met when those interests crossed. But their experience reminded me of my great Aunt Susan, who I really think about her a lot, because her story came back into our family a couple years ago. But most people grew up for generations thinking that she had passed away at a boarding school. But she lived a very vibrant life from what we can find out. But she never was able to come home. And what that meant to our family. So I was thinking about her yesterday. I was thinking about my father. But I'm also very mindful of the living generation. That's the thing about Facebook or social media platforms. The living generation is popping up all the time, right? So our voices, our thoughts, sometimes is the biggest voice in our world. But there was the generations before us that it's important to for me to intentionally silence the pop-up of the living generation. Because when I think of the ancestors, they're all around us. And one of our young relatives is on a super duper endurance race or hike, and from Canada to Mexico. And she talked about that. But that's what I had also been thinking, is that the living generation, sometimes we need to turn down the volume a little bit on social media, what we are thinking about, concerns for ourselves, and think of those people that were able to live through very, very trying times. And we literally all owe our lives to them. So what does that mean? In a sense, beyond gratitude into action, to live through this way, this time, the best that we can. And it's sort of like, sometimes like the English language, but like, if you think about yourself as a whole being, where it's not just, the physical, the mental, the emotional, there's an essence that everybody has. There's a presence, because that's the life force. That's the life force that the Creator gave to us. And so one of the other things that I practice, because, if there's, I would love somebody to do like, maybe the next clown dance. There's like, a social media golem or something, my precious. But there's a social media body that people are they're starting to develop, right? And at first I thought, well, that's not good posture. But then I kind of thought about it, and it's kind of like our hunger or our looking for, like the green grass of a good place, right? It's kind of like, start transforming. It kind of reminded me that everyone's developing like a buffalo hump on their back, because they're looking for that through this platform, like connection. They're looking for that green grass of the Indian heaven, of a good connection, because of the experiencing we're going through. So when I reimagine that, rather than like, say, the living generation, rather than developing, ortho problems or whatever from social media, or, ortho problems or eye problems, if I think about it in the Piccani mindset, or my mind, we are the buffalo of this time, the living generation. The buffalo has come back, and that is also our, if you want to say, that is our announcement that we are coming back. And there are many things that can like take people down a rocky road during this time, or maybe feed the fire of fear instead of the sunrise of hope. And so if we were mindful and you catch yourself going down that rocky path, and that's an important place to take a pause and like a regrounding technique, because I wanted to be practical, and share things. I was going to make jokes, like I've been at different places in the world where I was like, I wonder if other people have this experience. But I've been told many, many, many times, you're the first Indian I ever met. I thought they were all gone. And as I aged, I felt like maybe that I identified a path in my life, that I was sent off to far places. You know, like I would show up in different parts of the world or in different, even really in organizations. I was the first Indian in the room, not in the cupboard, in the room. And people felt at ease and free to tell me, oh, you're the first Indian I met. And some of them felt also very comfortable telling me, I thought you were all gone. So when I look at this time we're in and how we're interacting, how Native Wellness, other organizations that want Indian people to walk in a good way into the future, how we're using this platform. Because now there's so many Indians, they're doing stories. They did a New York Times stories on our people. And I think, you know, the American mentality is like, you know, I was kind of like, I was going to make, anyway, it's kind of like, you know that dance, the sneak up? It's kind of like Indians now when we start using social media and we start streaming and being ourselves, our fantastic, wonderful selves. We are sending out that message now. Just like the buffalo, we are in our resurgence. And you cannot tell our story because we're here to tell our story. And when I was praying this morning and, asking for that I say things that are true, not like fact checking the president or anything, but that I say things that are really from my heart. That's really where truth comes from. It's not about facts. It's about speaking your truth from your heart. And so when I was, praying for that, I thought it's very difficult now for people to silence Indigenous people. And that's one of the blessings of this time. And sometimes if you're living alone, or maybe, that you're negotiating through public places now. One of our elders who's very good at social media. He's so good, he gets put in Facebook jail every now and then. But he talked about how he would go to public places and people, because on their First Nations, they're wear a mask in public and gloves, and how non-Indigenous people would look at him, and he made a joke out of it, that they're wondering what he has under that mask, right? Because I guarantee you, if Indigenous people wore a mask before the pandemic into like Walmart, into some of the big box stores or some of the malls, if we had wore a mask, the consequences there would have been a consequence. And so now he was talking about wearing that is for them. Wearing that is also for all the people that he has relationships with in his home. And I was going to tell a different type of experience about, face coverings. All traditions had some sort of face coverings. And if you think about it like that, it makes sense to me why then you had the wisdom from the ancestors that survived the epidemics. They survived the disruptions. And that wisdom we have to honor. If my people, if they had known that transmission of smallpox was through those infected blankets, I know they would have burnt those blankets. They would have taken action. And so I was reminded of that this morning, because I've had experiences where, I go out for essential things and not everyone's wearing a mask. That's, I'm not going to try to, So not everyone's wearing. And I had an experience where when I went in to get a certain type of cuisine that's dear to all natives, so I'm gonna let you guess, as a takeout. When I went in there, a non-native seen me with my mask on, and nobody else had a mask on, and they made this sign, like choking sign. And so I evaluated in that nanosecond what was going to be my response, because this, even though that city is not under right now part of our reservation, it's our traditional territory. So in that nanosecond, I decided I wanted to really see what that was, not to instigate, but this is what I did. I had my little mask on, so I mindfully kept looking at that lady who did that, and I could see her person she was with. They were very uncomfortable, and at first she kept looking back at me, and then when she see me still looking at her, she turned around, and they suddenly started talking just to each other. I didn't have to say a thing, because I was not going to go over there. I had my mission to get that certain type of cuisine, and my mother was with me, so waiting for me. And so we're going to have challenges, and how we meet those challenges is we acknowledge them. That didn't feel good. Did I feel threatened? No. Did I feel targeted? Yes. So I had those feelings all at once. But the reason I wear those is because I have a responsibility to other people, to myself, to survive this time. Because I have that genetic wisdom of the ancestors that say we must go forward. And this time, as you move, if you have movement through this time, you're moving towards transforming out of this experience. And it's going to change. It's going to keep changing. Every day changes. But in that time, I really had to acknowledge that one of the things that I was thinking of, one of my cousin's husband. I knew him before they were married, and one time we were presenting together, and I had never seen. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I didn't know he had a suit and tie. I just thought he had just t-shirts because I had only seen him in my whole life with the t-shirt on and pants, or a jacket, if it was cold. So we were going to present together, and it was really an important thing to talk about American Indians and negotiating through as a family when somebody's diagnosed with cancer. So we were going to be co-presenters. So he came in a suit, and I was like, it made me sit up a little bit straighter, because I had worn my stuff, but when I seen him having a suit on, I was like, whoo. So retaining your dignity is a traditional teaching. Having a presence. And I did, in that experience, I could respond in all kinds of ways. If I had felt threatened, it would have been different. But in that nanosecond of decision, I said, this is our home. Those are my people that I'm protecting. Like I do a lot of self-talk, because sometimes your encouragement has to come first from that well of the memories, of the impulses, of the gifts that you all have to give yourself that encouragement. So in that moment, I was reminded how important it is to move forward with dignity, with pride, and not turn the other cheek, Because if any of you know any of the people from the Blackfoot Confederacy, I would say we're real cheek turners, you know. Um, but to move forward with dignity, because there's a strength that we all come from. There are people that moved forward in that way. And what my cousin's husband had shared during that presentation, because some people that knew him, they were shocked too to see him in a suit and tie. But he said, I told myself I'm going to do my best today, because it was important to him. I'm going to do my best today, and I'm going to dress my best. So he said, I did this for you. That's what he told the audience. And I thought, my ancestors, because that was near that restaurant's near one of our traditional crossings. And that was where Akawa Pikani, where the first Pikani would lead the people across there. My grandfather had a dream about Akawa Pikani, about the first Pikani, when they were crossing that stream, when he was hospitalized near there. That's what I felt. I felt that strength of my people, that this was our territory. So last week, was Indian. We weren't the celebrity minute of the week on some of the shows, but last week was a pretty, I think, heady week, and Monday of this week for people, where I think a lot of folks, not just here, but in other parts of the world, are reminded that Indigenous people are not gone. And we are going to be a part of the future, because this is our home. We can't be deported to another homeland. This is our homeland. And that we're going to be a part of the future. So during every day, I got to check my notes. So I have a note to myself, the reason I wrote them down is because I could tell 10,000 stories for every little snippet. But we're going to move forward. We are every day. You see tribes all across or indigenous communities, indigenous governing bodies. They're making decisions so that we move forward, so that we are in the future. They're already announcing our intention. And so in that, what is going to be your part? That's an open-ended question to everybody, to children, to elders, to middle-agers, to former teenagers, because a former teenager can be any chronological age. What is going to be your role as we walk forward together? What is that gift that you were given? How are you going to use it? How are you going to include other people in your story? What is the story people will tell about this time of how you behaved? Because, the good thing about being connected in your community, everything usually gets known. And part of my life experience is when I worked with youth, and I worked with a lot of, at that time, they had all different kinds of names or categories for youth: at risk, less at risk, all that kind of stuff. And one of the things I used to tell and share with the children that were in circumstances that were unjust, their childhood involved being in unjust circumstances and treated unjustly, is I would tell them, if you only focus, you have to focus on the people behavior, but don't feel that you were alone in that experience, because the Creator sees everything, and the ancestors do too. And they are waiting for that opportunity to help you move on, to listen to them, to feel them, to acknowledge them, to gift them, thank you for my life. Thank you for providing me with these rich traditions, with this land that you held on to the land, you held on to the water. You never gave up. You fought till you couldn't fight anymore. You lived until it was your time to go to the spirit world, your other journey. And so I know that. I believe that. And the responsibility I think that we all have in these moments during the day is we have that gift to ask for guidance. There's instructions in a lot of cultures, but one of the things that the teachers that I have been privileged to have, my own thoughts from being a little girl, when times were rough for my family, I would go and sit in this tree, and I would sit on the branch, just to be outside the house too. And I would sit there, and I believe I was 6 years old, and I remember distinctly sitting in that tree and praying to my grandmother to help me. Nobody told me that. And I believe that at that time, my experience was she was waiting to be asked for help. And so there are many moments during this time where you could maybe even getting through the everyday activities, figuring out how you're going to maintain your household, how you're going to maintain yourself, trying to figure it out. You can't Google it, although, I don't know. The ancestors might start answering on Google. I'm just going to say, if they see a lot of Indians hovering around, it's kind of like being at in the old times at the casino buffet. If they see a lot of Indians hovering around food, they start, making their presence known through your heart, through your stories, through maybe the food you pick, or so I'm not ruling it out that they could be on Google, or start answering for Google. That'd be awesome, right? But there are ways to ask for guidance. And so there's a technique that I use. I used it last night. If I have a trying day during this time, or maybe something's weighing, challenges come up and something's weighing on my mind, or I want to just have a carefree day, whatever it is, before I go to sleep, I ask for help. I ask, even if it's not specific, please guide me for tomorrow. And one time I was out on the river, not too far from here, when my dad lived there, and we were talking about traditional tobacco. And I was telling him kind of, what I had known from teachers and Indian teachers, and how I had guided myself through certain experiences by offering out tobacco. And so one morning when I was staying with him, I walked out, and in our way, there's ways that you can use the earth and tobacco. And so I had went to the spot, and when I came back in, my dad said, "Why did you go there?" And he meant that spot out in front of his house. And I said, "Oh, because I wanted to offer up, wanted to give him a smoke. And I wanted to offer up And one of the things he had told me is that when you do that, one of your requests is you ask them to always wake you for tomorrow. And so at night, often I do that. I ask them, wake me for tomorrow. And not that I wouldn't wake up, but either way I'd wake up. But I'm asking them, be with me throughout the day. You know, all my ancestors, all the gifts you have, be with me throughout the day tomorrow. I'm asking that as for guidance into the future, into the next day. And really that's what we're in now. We need that guidance to move forward. We need each other. We need the living generation. We need the ancestors. And then, you know, there's like some people have a distinct number of generations they plan for. And I would often ask different communities that I would work with and myself about, and I've talked about this before, about if I think 100 winters in the future to that generation, I want them to know that they were a part of my today, that I was thinking of them, so that those days when they might have a different life, that they might have challenges, that they could feel me as their ancestor, thinking and loving them from their ancestral path, so that they could be like I was as a child when I had a hard time sitting in a tree by myself. And what comes to my child mind is to pray to my grandmother to help me. And so in the times we're in, that we not only think about the ancestors, our own selves, all the other living generation people, but the future, the ones that, who knows, I mean, depends on what culture you come from. Um, this is where I edit. You see me editing. I'm editing because this is a medium, you know, social media. Um, in the future, our ancestors appear to us now. So I want you to embrace that your gifts are those ones that the future generation will feel. They will feel and hear, if you want to say, your footsteps. They will be able to experience them. Right now, there's been, so every day I ask for that type of guidance. I pause, I take moments, and then people that know me, like sometimes in the past, no, I didn't, I'm going to make a joke. I was not birthed with a playbook like in football. Or if I was, it would have been the Piccini football manual of how to win and be strategic. But I love to plan. I love to make plans. The most complex things, you know, I know there's a way through them. But every day I make a plan. I make a list. And 2 days ago, I told myself, or 3 days ago, I said friends that I hadn't heard because their lives are very busy with their children, their own immediate family during this time, but I hadn't heard from them. So I said, I'm either going to call them, I'm going to text them, or I'm going to video chat with them unexpectedly. You know it's a real friend when they use Messenger and they video chat with you, and you might be laying in bed all shaggy head and you answer. That's your friend. So it don't matter how they look. Because making intentional connections were a part of my plan. And then I also I notify some people in my life, because if they don't see me on social media, or they don't talk to me or something, they wonder what's going on. So sometimes I tell them, I'm not going to be on the telephone today. And I take intentional, that's also a part of my plan. But I put the real life things that I have to deal with in order to live on that list too. So I make a plan. Make a plan. Make a plan for your wellness. You know, drink enough water. You know, prepare to think good thoughts when you are cooking, no matter what you're cooking. Even if you're just opening a to-go container, or maybe one of your relatives drop something off and you're opening up their chili, you know, do it with good intentions. Because how you nourish your body, no matter what it is, matters during this time. Because we must maintain, we must get sustenance for ourselves so we can keep moving on. We can keep moving forward. Okay, I got to look at this. Okay. This is a fun thing that everybody could do right after the power hour or anytime. Just not when you're driving. Okay, that's my only disclaimer. But I have an exercise that I use to, maybe, you know, I'm having a great day. I use it. Maybe I'm not having, maybe I'm having one of them scratchy days. I use it also. So I literally stop and I look at what's right in front of me. And it doesn't matter, like if it's for 30 seconds or a minute. Uh, I look at literally what's right in front of me as I pause. As in all the pausing, the techniques I'm talking about, like their, if you want to say their goal is, so I remain in touch with myself. My whole person goes through my day. And part of I guess part of my healing journey was learning how not to gut through experiences, like how to force myself to go through experiences, because I had been able to go through experiences regardless of the consequence that were hard. I just endured them. So for me, when on my healing journey, is part of staying in the present, staying, and that's a technique I use now. You know, maybe I got off a Zoom call, or, you know, maybe I had to talk for like 3-4 hours or whatever, and I need to come back to my world, to taking care of my dogs, taking care of what I need to in my physical world. And I use that technique. You just stop and you look around, you select an area, and you reground to where you're at. So I use that a lot. And I'm going to look at my list because I see tick tock, we got 8 more minutes. So I also do, in my past, like I was a physical person. You know, if there's any third graders out here, don't do this. This is my disclaimer. You know, me and my brother, I was in 3rd grade, so that meant he was like in 2nd. With one of our friends, there was a slow moving train, and sometimes we used to hop on it. Don't do that. But I've always been a physical, like, expressive person. And I played sports, organized sports, I swam. When I was in my early 30s, I took ballet for the first time. You know, like I had learned traditional dancings, I had learned social dances from my mom and stuff, but I took like ballet. That's a whole other type of dance, you know, and the outfits is a little different than you see at the powwows. But so now, as I'm moving to a different time in my life, I have to pull back on the physical part, but I'm mindful that I move. So when sometimes if I'm at the computer or I want to help myself get revived without maybe, drinking more coffee or, something, merely lifting your arms revives you. No matter what you're doing, if you lift your arms over your head. So I commit to some type of movement, and I take all of those things because I want to take care of not only me, but I want to take care of all the relationships that I have now and the new ones that I will have in the future that I don't know. I don't know those people yet because I'm preparing where it's going to be a different group of like-hearted people that through this experience, people will mingle and connect in a different way. And you see some of those connections happening within our communities, where people, we had here at home, there was a whole group of people that their response to this time is they became part of the people that were going out and cleaning up areas of the reservation. We had other people that began to coalesce around making sure that the food networks that were coming and helping feed our people, that they volunteered. We have other people delivering meals on a volunteer basis. Some of them are employees because the employees before could not handle the need now. So you need more people. You see people that are going out maybe for the first time to different parts of our homeland and getting back to that relationship, that compact, that agreement that the earth has made with us, our ancestors. Regrounding on the very earth where our ancestors are already put their footprint. That's a really like a really connecting you when you connect with the earth and you think your people walked there before. It's very grounding. And no matter where you live, if you don't live in your traditional territories, the earth knows all. That's the other thing I do know. The earth knows all. And if you connect with the land where you're at now, it will know you. Those people's ancestors will know you. Your ancestors will know that you are reconnecting with the earth. So when I was thinking about all the things I could have shared today and how do you really, right, walk, right? That was in the title and it was intentional because there's different, that song, Walk This Way by Aerosmith? Well, really, that's like the Indian way, is the way we move forward has been laid out for us. And my dad one time was sharing with me that the way he was explained, like with all the new changes that came to us and the behaviors that you could adopt that were not of our people or that you were challenged to adopt, if the intention you did it with when you came to a point of decision or a fork in the road and you seen the ancestors' intentional path before, the creator's path, and you decided you're going to go over here for whatever reason, you took another journey, but it didn't involve that intention of, of the creator. And my dad simply told me, when you come to a fork in the road and you go that other way, you're on your own luck. So if that has happened in your life, you already have that wisdom of how to turn around and come back, because you know that journey of how you got there. So that's one thing I want to encourage people during this time. It's okay to change. You don't have to wait till after the pandemic. you know, just right now, like, I know one thing you couldn't do is go off and join the circus but don't be afraid to change during this time, whatever that means. If you have a dream that was before, you have a new dream, pursue that dream. Um, Yesterday on the Power Hour with Robert and the children from different all around, you know, the indigenous world, one of the little guys said that he was sharing. They asked him what it's like to be a man, and he said, "Well, it's a lot of responsibility and a lot of hunting." But he also said, so Robert was asking him more questions, and he also said, "You can't be a scaredy cat." And our people were, no matter where you came from, they were very brave. They didn't have to learn how to be brave, it was natural. Because bravery is simply, it's like courage. You've taken care of your spirit, and there you go. You have a spiritual way to look at the world, or you have a way to that is taught to you to guide you through teachings, and there you go. So bravery was a normal function of our everyday life. And it is related to dignity, it is related to honor, it is related to love that we all have, we all share in our worlds. And we're all gifted with the ability to love because that's how we arrived here. And I think this is my, I'm going to close now because I don't want to go beyond the TikTok. But really, our lives are an act of love. And as we move forward through this time, there'll be new opportunities to love activities, to love new people, to love new lands, to love new food. I don't know, there's a lot of endless opportunities. And so as you move forward in the rest of your day, I want to wish you a good day. And I want to wish you a beautiful, comfortable, loving sleep time tonight. And I would like to invite you tomorrow to tune back into the Native Wellness Power Hour, where Lavina will be on. And if you look at some of the past videos, or those of you that have trained with her and stuff, she's what I would say, she's like a sunshine on a sunny day. So please tune in tomorrow at noon, and then on Friday, that's as far as I looked ahead, Theta, NewBreast, and Judith Hellman will be on the Power Hour. So have a good day. Love you all, and I look forward to us sharing a walk in the future. Bye-bye.